I've labeled this guide as Reactful after a library that I've created to automatically go through all these steps and create a barebone repo that is fully configured for server-side rendered, and that's ejected by default. So all the configurations are flat and all the files are there ready for you to customize them. And that package is called Reactful. This is how you use it. You do npx Reactful and you specify the name of the app. I'm going to use this to recreate the Star Match game on a local development environment. So the usage here is exactly like the Create React app repo. But the difference is this will be bare bone, no extra features, just the absolute minimum things that you need. It will also be ejected by default. So you get all the scripts and configuration flat and ready for you to configure. And this application will also be server-side ready by default. So this command will create a new directory under the current working directory. And right now it is installing the dependencies. And when the command is done, it will also give you a little bit of instructions on how to start your project. So this command is basically doing the exact same steps that we did here with a little bit extra configuration. For example, when it configures Webpack, it also configures some tasks for you to run Webpack in production and to configure things for production. It will also include a way for you to create a component using the Reactful command. So you go into the created directory and you just run npm start. This will run two concurrent commands. It will run Webpack and the server in the backend. And the server runs on 4242 by default. So we're going to go in there. So here is the Reactful. Same button example is going here. And this is also server-side rendered by default. So let me run the editor here. And let me show you a few things about this Reactful project. So the directory structure is a little bit different here. And the configuration is a little bit more involved. There are some configurations about extracting CSS. There are some optimization about production. What we need to focus on right now is how to take our Star Match application that we all wrote in a single file, really, in the playground, and see how things fit in a locally managed React development environment right now. So the sample React app that you see here is under components, under app.js. So this is where we can start our component. In fact, I'm going to grab the final code that we have for the Star Match game under the RGS 3.9 URL and take it to the Reactful project. So this app component is already configured to be rendered and also to be server-side rendered. So I'm going to take leverage of that. I'm going to keep the app component as is and make it return our Star Match component. And for that, we can just paste the code that we had before, all of it really. So all the components that we have in here in the app.js file, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 components and 1 custom hook, and all the dependencies of these components in that exact same file, including the color theme and the math science object that we used. We don't need to render anything in here, but we need to make the app component return what we previously rendered in the playground. So we get rid of this line and render this line. And guess what? We could test that. Just refresh this page. It doesn't automatically refresh. And it looks like we have a server error. And we have a lot of ESLint errors in here that we need to go through. But let me take a look at the server error. So back in the server log, you should see the error. The error is use effect is not defined. Now here's the thing. Because this project is server-side rendered, you will get the errors on the server first, not on the client. If we weren't doing server-side rendering stuff, you would get this error in your Chrome DevTools. But now, because we're doing server-side rendering logic, the server is going to start using your React application before the browser. So this is something that you need to be aware of when you do server-side rendered content. So this error here is easy to fix. We previously had use effect available globally in the playground, and in here we don't have anything available globally. Everything you use, you have to import from somewhere. This app component was already importing React and the use state function hook for us. So we also need to import the use effect function hook as well. Okay, so let me take a look at all these ESLint problems. And check it out. The playground seems to be inserting tabs instead of spaces, and ESLint is immediately complaining about that. It says, I am configured for 2 spaces, not tabs. So this formatting job is something that you should have Prettier do. And Prettier should do it on save. Every time you save the file, you should configure your editor to run Prettier. Now, I turned off this setting in my editor here for you to see the value of Prettier. If you're using VS Code, you need to check the Format on Save setting. Now, back in your file, check it out. When I save, all the problems that are fixable and any indentation that doesn't fit the current configuration of Prettier will be automatically fixed by Prettier when you save right there. So we're down to 0 problems. Prettier actually fixed all the problems, all the indentations, any wrong formatting that I had. It fixed that. For example, it figured out that this nested ternary that we did for the game status can fit on a single line, and that's okay. So that is Prettier. Definitely use Prettier. Do not manually format your code anymore. All right, let's test and check it out. The game is rendering. I have 0 styles, but the game is rendering. It looks really ugly without that CSS. So let me bring that CSS and show you where you can include it. There is a styles directory in here, and there's an index.scss. This is for Sass. So you can use Sass in this environment as well. And I can just paste the CSS content that I grabbed from the same URL in the index.scss file as is. All these classes are in the markup. So let's test. Check it out. The game is rendering.